Be to Jesus Christ and forward with Mary. Happy and holy day to all of you, my dear children, in the sacred hearts of Jesus and Mary, and in the most chaste heart of Saint Joseph. Welcome back with our morning column, Saints and Coffee. Today is Friday, the 21st of June. The Church celebrates the feast of the saint, much venerated in the past, patron saint of Catholic adolescents, Saint Aloysius Gonzaga, who came from a noble family in Mantova, and then became a Jesuit novice, entered the Society of Jesus, and became a saint. And the rest is history. It is written in Matins that he was so burned by the love of God that his holy body was affected. Just think about it. These are chosen souls whom God calls to special paths of sanctification. And then Saint Aloysius Gonzaga, who since so many times today is downgraded to a saint who is too angelic and focused on his own holiness. I remember that he cured victims of the plague, and he contracted the plague himself, to say that there is no holiness that is not Caritas Christi, but Caritas Christi towards man, that's it. That is, there is no holiness that is self-referential, a sort of, a kind of holiness for oneself. A sort of, oh, how beautiful I am, how good I am, how holy. Let others fend for themselves. And sometimes even in the little remnant, I worry that this could happen, a sort of self-satisfaction in seeing oneself as mystical, holy, and beautiful before God, and not caring about one's neighbor. I taught these things when I was a parish priest. They are all for God, but woe betide them if you touch their seat in church, if you take their place. They go into a rage. And this is just one example. In short, everything can be seen from charity towards one's neighbor. There is nothing to do. St. John, for the last time, said it in his letter. To quote, he cannot say that he loves God who does not see, who does not love his neighbor, whom he sees. Brothers, the Apostle John continues, let us not love in word, but in deed and in truth. So today I would like to invite all of you to think of an edition, let's say of an unpublished edition of St. Aloysius Gonzaga, because even today, St. Aloysius Gonzaga is essentially the angelic saint, the mystical saint, the always holy of God, the pure young man, the young man. And this is certainly true. That is, the message of purity is absolutely precious in St. Aloysius Gonzaga. And this is a decisive theme. However, first of all, in my opinion, one needs to review that other aspect there, and that is the love for one's brother, for one's neighbor. St. Aloysius cures the victims of plague, and he also contracts it himself. And in the past, because the first dimension was overemphasized, that of purity and so on, it has not been sufficiently considered, that is, that St. Aloysius Gonzaga died in service of his neighbor. It is especially important to consider this. Let us pray to him today for all our young people. St. Aloysius Gonzaga, let's pray that he may help us to become saints as well. What is his other message? Renouncing the world. These are the two messages of St. Aloysius Gonzaga, and here there's always a lot to think about. That of renouncing the world. We must renounce the spirit of the world. The world, when I say the world, I'm not speaking, as you may understand, of the cosmic dimension of nature and reality as such, which indeed bears the traces of divinity, but of the world understood as the logic opposed to that of God, the logic of the flesh, the logic of power, the logic of money, of lust, the lust of the world, as the Apostle John calls it. Instead, St. Aloysius Gonzaga reminds us that we must renounce the spirit of the world because life is so short. There is that beautiful letter that he writes to his mother shortly before dying when he tells her, I am dying, do not be sad for me because I'm going before God. That's it. And so within this, today we ask St. Aloysius Gonzaga that within this love for God that leads us to renounce the world, we put love for our neighbor. If there is no love for others in us, we must review our journey of faith. We must seriously review it. That is his message. Well, today is Friday. Then I remind you of the abstinence from meat and the pious exercise of the Via Crucis. These are the two practices of piety that I recommend to you. The first is to honor the Lord's Passion by not eating meat and its derivatives, cured meats such as mortadella, salami, cooked ham, raw ham, etc. Di finocchiona? Is that what it's called? Isn't that in the north? It is not extremely easy to find here in the south. In short, one does not eat meat in order to honor the Passion of Jesus. It is a practice that we, who of the little remnant, wanted to rediscover this practice, and we gladly propose to all of you the pious exercise of the ways of the cross, to adore Jesus on the cross, He who died for us. My neighbors here are waiting for us to start playing their loud music, but let's move on. Well, my dear ones, I wanted to tell you then we are still conducting here today, let's say, the dismantling of the work that we created in recent years from the year 2007, I think, or 2008. There's a story of grace that God knows, which is written here in Little Nazareth, the whole journey of the little remnant, the whole journey of the Marian Catholic resistance to the false Pope Bergoglio. Everything that now others continue to do around the world, and sometimes I think, but I don't say it for me to advance myself, that Domina Nostra does everything, but put him aside. But it was all born here. Remember that. Everything was born here in Little Nazareth. It all started here in Little Nazareth, but we must now close the center. We must close it, as you know, although the center has a building permit. We do not have any serious variances. We closed in these arches on one side. This one, I will show you here, to my right. Here it is. And I'm right at the side of the arch. This is the closure of the arch that should have been left open. And for this closure, which was also done naively, we must leave this place because it is a priority for the municipality of Carini, where we are located. This is the priority of the municipality of Carini. There it is, the priority of the municipality of Carini, dear children. What a shameful page is written that is about to be written. I'm not saying from the municipality of Carini, that is. I have clear ideas, and I tell you these things clearly, ready to become a martyr. I'm not saying it is a page written shamefully by the municipality of Carini. The municipality of Carini is the pen and must do what the hand wants. But those who pressed, because there's no doubt that there are pressures, none of us are stupid. There are pressures to close Little Nazareth, strong pressures. The TV journalists went to the municipality of Carini, to its mayor, to tell him there is building abuse, there's an illegal building, as if it were a castle that we built here. I want to tell you something that pains me immensely, really. I said this with a lot of pain. Yesterday afternoon near here, there are illegal houses, not building abuses. We're talking about a total lack of building permits that we instead possess. Yesterday, they put the volume of the radio at full blast to celebrate because we are leaving. They were annoyed with Ave Maria, Santa Maria, ora pro nobis, intercede pro nobis. Understood? Tantum ergo sacramentum. Since they know that we are leaving, and so they proposed Gianna Nannini, Riccardo Coccianti, and other Neapolitan songs at full volume. Yesterday, a person said to me, "But Father, how could you stay so calm? But it's an avalanche of hatred against you." I leave it to Our Lady. This is the abuse the municipality of Carini has identified. Take a good look at it. This is abuse. I don't know, dear children. You see, then of course there are the structures where the nuns of the Company of Mary have slept and have lived. The ones that I kidnapped, correct? Those that they take away from the family only to discover that families come here when they want, those who do not want because they do not share in following the path of living the consecrated life. That's another thing altogether. But those who agree come, and those are legal. But they're made of wood. We have put them in wood. Then, of course, if the inspectors come and go to examine the bolts as well, oh, look, really, it's an act of injustice that I ask myself. But then I see in the world there are acts of injustice galore. And only when we die, as it takes St. Aloysius Gonzaga, when we close our eyes to this world, we can evidently and hope, perhaps begin to review certain things a little. I believe that victory is granted to me on earth, but perhaps I begin to think that I was perhaps wrong in this. No one is perfect. I feel a bit like Marco da Vigano, because you're clear. Be aware of my mission, a bit like Lorenzo di Brindisi, like Giovanni Sobieski. But I was wrong in this because, of course, I'm remedying many defeats. But the big win lies in the fact that that our backs are straight and the foreheads are high, and maybe that is the big win so far. However, we are closing the center. We are working hard. I thank the workers and the faithful who make themselves available. Many men who make themselves available to help us move our possessions to the other location, because we have acquired, as you know, the center on the side of Piccolonazareth. We were going to renovate the old farmhouse, always if they give us permission from the municipality, because while in Piccolonazareth they are closing, I remind you that the Guardia di Finanza of Padova has taken an interest in us. Padova has been interested in me, in us, who we went, in the Treccani Encyclopedia, dedicated to Domina Nostra, we went to the province of Padua, in the diocese of Treviso, to remove a highly carcinogenic asbestos roof that had been there for 40 years. Don Minutella from Palermo, who ignored the building codes, apparently, goes to Tre Baseleghe to remove the asbestos roof on a building near Padova. I don't know. I really don't know. This is a special moment. I invite everyone to, in the meantime. I thank you. I thank you because many of you have responded and are responding generously. From what I'm told, to the appeal to help us, because there are prohibitive costs that we are facing. I trust in Providence, and Providence naturally manifests itself through you. So do not miss an opportunity to help us, so we can conclude this operation. And then what will be from here? What do I know? Do they close that as well? And what do they do with it? The municipality puts it up for sale, and then they open a disco inside the church. What will they think of doing with it? Be careful. I will say it later. I would not like to be in their place, nor in the place of the mayor, who must not do what he decides. Obviously, because otherwise it is contradictory. He said so. Look, I want to clarify. Tell me if I use a single syllable of irreverence towards the mayor. On the contrary, I feel tenderness for him. It is like Don Abbondio, reached by the Bravi, because he told the television journalist that there was an order to be respected before. Why does the order suddenly fail? And there is this abuse because, look, we have incredible. It's incredible. You know they hijacked, because this is the airport. They hijacked the runway because this abuse here prevents planes from seeing the landing lights, you know. We and UNESCO has taken an interest because we have ruined the aesthetic heritage of Carini's illegal building. What a shame. What a shame. What infamous pages, what infamous people on the other side. My enemies are cowardly and reproachable because they didn't know how to face me directly. I've already beaten them precisely because of that. I've already beaten them precisely because of that. Martyrdom is a gift. When Blessed Jerzy Popliescu was martyred, when I read his life, I was disappointed because he was a brave man, intrepid, a bit like me. But then the communist agents reached him, as you can recall, and tore him to pieces. They massacred him. Then put him, while still alive, in a sack and threw him into a river. But I felt in my heart, Our Lady said, this is my personal thing, that was not an abandonment. It was a seal of grace. It was the greatest gift that was given to Blessed Jerzy. Martyrdom. Martyrdom. That is, the logic of God is different from the logic of man. Let us always remember this fact. What in the eyes of the world, the world that St. Aloysius Gonzaga has, that St. Aloysius Gonzaga renounced, is defeat, is loss. Think of the cross. Calvary today, which is Friday, in the eyes of God, it is an abundance, it is grace, it is salvation. I'm ready for anything. What will they do with this center? What will they do with this building? I do not know. We are next door. The pilgrims will come on December 27th, here if I live, to celebrate my priestly jubilee, 25 years of Mass. That is good. So in the meantime, I thank you for the help you are continuing to give. Do not fail to continue to do it because we need it. And many of you understand that there's this precise need to collaborate. And there appears in the description the IBAN number, the banking information, with which you can help the association invest and use the economic aid, because the workers are working hard, as I told you, to transfer whatever we can, bring from here to the new center, to the new structures we are trying to renovate. That is the House of Hail Mary. And then I wanted to tell you, and I conclude finally, let us go to today's episode. I do not like these dark glasses, I apologize to you, but I forgot my light ones at home. I was saying that then let us start immediately with today's catechesis, today's reflection, but I wanted to say one last thing. We know where to put the nuns, of course, because Providence is not lacking. We've already identified a villa for them that will help us manage their housing needs. So the planes will be able to land safely again. The territorial heritage of Carignan is not polluted. Why this abuse here? Let's see, those that do not believe, it is not the abuse of that the church is abusive. Not even the center is this. It's this arc here, about 20 square meters. Tell me who wanted this. The journalists who went there to scream about the illegal center, the illegal center? The center is not illegal. The center is absolutely in order. It is a slight variance here that the numerous enemies, because they have also called the pious women of Don Enrico Roncaglia, they have sent messages to the... oh, come on. And you really know who he educates these spiritual daughters. They showed me leaked notes of the mayor, and then the journalist went. The mother of the two nuns went as well. Everyone writes of the mayor because this apparent illegality must be abolished. It seems like a victory for the enemies. But after Good Friday, there's Easter Sunday. Easter morning, that scent of morning spring is sulfur for the enemies of the cross, for the enemies of Christ, for the enemies of the church, for the wicked. It is sulfur to them because they prefer the darkness of that Good Friday than the radiant light of Easter morning. We are moving. I know that you believe in it and that you will give it to us. You will give us to help us. You will continue to do so, a great helping hand. Well, let us instead move to the topic of today's reflection, even if dark glasses that I'm wearing are not suitable. So today's headline, Vigano on trial for schism. But be aware of the truth. So yesterday the news that Monsignor Vigano will go on trial for the crime of schism bounced around the world news. And immediately a consideration is required. But how come in the face of what is in any case, for heaven's sake, as a bishop, there are priests like me, like Don Enrico Bernasconi, like Don Ramon Guidetti, who is likely the next priest to be punished, who are reduced to the lay state for heresy and schism, and no one talks about it? How come? What could be the reason? This alone should lead us to reflect. The pretext that he is a bishop cannot suffice because, yes, he is a bishop, but we are 3 priests, and the others are also excommunicated, or are suspended ad divinis, or thrown out of parishes and convents. This is the first anomaly. Yesterday the newspapers talked about it extensively. Let us take Il Giornale, for example. The newspaper writes the headline, "He is accused of schism. Storm over former apostolic nuncio Carlo Maria Vigano." The dicastery of the faith makes this announcement at 5:27 p.m. The announcement comes directly from the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith, the one led by the increasingly pious and holy Cardinal Fernandez, who practically tells Our Lady that she must speak as Pope Francis wants. The gays must be blessed and the Vigano must be tried. That is Fernandez in the Vatican. Dear children, do not set foot in St. Peter's Square. I suggest this, then you decide. you may have profoundly serious spiritual disorders, because there are more demons in the Vatican than in hell right now. There's a direct connection between the infernal mouth and St. Peter's Square. So God has established a cleanup. So we should not be surprised. Moving on. For the doctrine of the faith, for the former nuncio, they're speaking of denying the elements necessary to maintain communion with the Catholic Church. Which Catholic Church? It is the most total mess. These are schismatics who condemn a schismatic. Because be careful, we have removed ourselves from this confusion. I tell you right away, because it is always better to summarize immediately and reach conclusions. Therefore, I don't have to tell you that Bergoglio and Fernandez are heretics, apostates, and schismatics. Of course they are. They deny tradition. They cast it away. Take, for example, Modus Laetitia and Fiducia Supplicans. These are two clearly infamous and heretical and apostate documents. Now, St. Thomas Aquinas teaches that the bishop, or even the apostate pope, is not to be followed, and that excommunicatis non potes excommunicare. Understood? So the so-called Church of Bergoglio is a schismatic church, which, whoever investigates the crime of schism for someone who is also a schismatic, because he is. Be careful to clarify these things, because yesterday a couple of people called me, Father, have you seen, now they're at a meeting point. What meeting point? Here it is schismatics who are trying a schismatic, because Bergoglio and Fernandez and Hollerich and Zuppi and millions others are unfortunately schismatics. And they go after Catholics and those who go after the false Pope Francis, and whoever goes with him commits a serious schismatic act. But Vigano is understandably, objectively also schismatic. He is schismatic. Why is that so? Because he, who had been consecrated bishop in 1991, I think, more or less, by Pope John Paul II, who I remember, is a validly elected pope. He was pope. He was the 264th pontiff, the vicar of Christ, successor of Peter. Monsignor Vigano decides under the table, because the news then leaked out, first of all, thanks to us, because of an indiscretion, but no one has recognized the merit. They are really unfortunate. There is a hatred towards Domina Nostra. I can't explain it. I lived with this since I was a child. But now I cannot explain it. What did he want to recognize, as I sometimes do with others? It was Radio Domina that first broke the news. We must not exist. Domina Nostra. The word Domina Nostra causes a jolt of anger. The under-the-table news that we were the first to give, and that was relaunched by everyone, that yes, Monsignor Carlo Maria Vigano had himself reconsecrated as bishop by whom? None other than Monsignor Richard Williamson, another schismatic. The act of reconsecration is clearly a schismatic action. This is pure comedy. Here we are in full comedic act, dear children. Sorry, everything is gone. It happens every day now and then. The signals disappeared. All the articles have disappeared. Oh well, it takes patience. As I was saying, it takes virtue if Bergoglio accuses him. So I was saying then, everything disappears inexplicably. So, as I was saying, we are witnessing a comedy because schismatics bring a schismatic to trial. How is this possible? A schismatic brings another schismatic to trial, so it is a situation that we of the little remnant must be able to understand and interpret well, because Vigano is schismatic. And the litmus test that Vigano is a schismatic is a statement regarding the Second Vatican Council, because in the letter of reply that is widely relaunched by the newspapers here in Italy and around the world, Monsignor Vigano says that, like Lefebvre, the council was a cancer, that he is schismatic, because it is evident that Pope Benedict XVI on February the 28th, I think, no, 24th. Oh, anyway, I don't remember the date. I read in my book, in my book, Church, Where Are You Going? He holds a last meeting with the clergy of Rome, of the Second Vatican Council. Yes, the Pope. Yes, do we follow what the Pope says? Absolutely. the Pope has never made a secret that the Council creates problems, because he was a friend of von Balthasar, who in turn said that the Council has problems of a pastoral type, however not of a dogmatic nature, in the sense that there are no dogmatic pronouncements, and there is no connection to them, as always happened in the councils anathema sit. So it can be revised. But the council was the 21st council of the church. You see that in all this mess, in this messy revelry, we, the little remnant, look, it's incredible. We appear increasingly clearly as those who have remained Catholics. Because if you look at the schismatic Bergoglio and his faction, they upend John Paul II and Benedict XVI. They go further in the sense of a total break from tradition. It is evident that Benedict XVI, and this is what the unfortunate traditionalists that they are should say. They could never have signed a document like Fiducia Supplicans. It is evident. And John Paul II himself, who, for example, about communion, to give just one example, to divorced and remarried couples in Familiaris Consortio, paragraph number 84, he clearly said that those couples who live in the condition of amore uxorio, to cohabitants more uxorio, the Holy Communion cannot be given. So it is evident that Bergoglio leads a schismatic church, no? It is not Catholic. It goes beyond official Catholicism because it goes because they break. Bergoglio breaks the so-called Pope Francis. He breaks with John Paul II and Benedict XVI. But in the same way, but opposite, are the traditionalists, who have broken, and I mean literally breaking with the past, and they break even the traditionalists, they sever themselves from the church in another way, because they too reject the magisterium of John Paul II and Benedict XVI himself. And so if we haven't been there, look, the thing is very serious. Last night I gave this catechesis, very, very interesting one, on Don Stefano Gobbi. Those who don't have it in the book, The Masonic Church, The Messages of Don Stefano Gobbi, those who haven't been able to listen to it should do so. It's in the playlist. Last night I emphasized precisely this. There's a little remnant that is us, and that we pay the most for all of this. There's a little remnant that, in my opinion, contra factum non valet argumentum, but is saving the true Catholic identity, because the Bergoglians are not Catholics. And the traditional Sedevacantists, those patrician-style Catholics, la Di Mattei or Vigano, are not Catholics either. None of them are Catholic. None of them are Catholic. And Vigano, as a schismatic, as the schismatics themselves who would condemn him for schism, that is, you understand that I do not know if what I said was clear. Now let's see a little. That this fact of rejection of the council is exactly what creates us as the little remnant. Things become clearer and clearer. They clarify increasingly. An unbridgeable gap. Oh well, dear children, it would have been nice to collaborate Monsignor Vigano. Even today there are people who are very naive and do not know much about how things are going on in Roman Catholicism. This is the time in which God, I see it in this way, is working to weed out Catholic identity. Do you want to see that the only ones who remain? Yes, because people thought in the past that there could be a link because of many things between Vigano and Dominutella. No, there cannot be. Now it is clearer than ever because Vigano rejects the Vatican Council too, and therefore the conclusions are just as ephemeral as Bergoglio's. Because for him, bless the soul, Bergoglio is the outcome of Wojtyla and Ratzinger. For us, as you know, this position is completely unacceptable. And then the Second Vatican Council is the matrix of all troubles, a Pandora's box. And then what an idea, and yes, that is because then among other things, he is not even clear. What does Vigano want? Returning, it seems, because it is never noticeably clear, to the Church of Pius XII, something for us that is completely, as you understand, unacceptable. He is not Catholic, he is schismatic. That yes, every now and then they tell a truth that is schismatic, but they say it. I'm talking about Bergoglio and Fernandez, who are more schismatic than him. They are schismatics who contradict each other. Those with Bergoglio are the avant-garde, and the others look to the past. In the middle, there are these couple thousand faithful, led by Domina who is slandered from all sides. What abuse I've endured. Look at the abuse. But let us see specifically. A scandal broke out in the pages of Il Giornale in 2018. In the middle of the global meeting for families that was held in Dublin, there were accusations directed to the Pope himself for having covered up cases of molestation of minors and seminarians carried out by the now former American Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, as you remember, Archbishop Emeritus of Washington. On that occasion, he had also asked for the resignation of Francis, a move studied in great detail. Since then, it has been a crescendo. Look at the information as it proceeds. They have become papal zouaves, the newspapers, impressive to defend Pope Francis. In the past, they would never have done it with Benedict. Since then, it has been a crescendo of accusations and poisons against the pontiff. Yes, because nothing is true that he protected McCarrick. That if it hadn't been for Vigano, McCarrick would have ended up walking away, covered by Bergoglio's power. No, it's not true. It's accusations. It's poisons. That it's not the Pope. They are poisons. They are simply accusations. The Holy Pope, the Pope. The Pope is never touched. Written by the newspapers, by the secular editorial offices that yesterday still have their hands stained with the blood of Benedict XVI. We skip because time is ticking, and so here then, the Archbishop now ends up on trial in the Vatican, an extrajudicial criminal trial of the Dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith, the former Holy Office, who cited the Monsignor in charges of schism. Now I repeat, those are schismatics. They cannot condemn him for schism. And I would like to ask a question. I do not know, because I have not had the time to deepen it, because now I too must take the statue of Our Lady of the Crucifix. That is what we have come to, the candles, to take them to the other side, to the other center. Why then, where are the men? It's only the nuns that I see. If it were not for the women here, we would not have gone anywhere. Thank you to all the women. And I'm not speaking only of those who are here, but those scattered throughout Italy, my spiritual daughters, scattered throughout Italy, who do not allow themselves to defame priests as others do, and who believe in the project without ever doubting, always ready to lend a helping hand. Of course, there are many men, for heaven's sake, who are working, but a phone call, a word of support of the many men who circulate in Little Nazareth. But where are they? Apart from a couple, there are a couple. But where are they? At work? But last night, why didn't they come out to express solidarity? I don't understand. Look, I'm a virile male, so there is no doubt about that. No, but I also kidnap women, understood? I kidnap women in my spare time. But I tell you that the more I know about women, the less I appreciate male identity. Sorry, I have to say it, because really, that is, last night I expected a group of men to come to support after dinner, before the catechesis. Oh well, there must have been a soccer game on TV. That there was not a group coming together that would say, we'll come and watch the game together and also lend a helping hand. It is not it's not meant to be an accusation. It's just to say that I was a little disappointed. Father, we're coming. We'll see the game together. Even at the time, it could have bothered me, but in hindsight, here are the women who are doing everything. Let's go back to the speech of Vigano. So I'd like to know, please excuse me for the aside regarding Little Nazareth, because I wanted to deepen the discussion to ask myself, but why are we priests and not Vigano subjected to an extrajudicial criminal trial? Why a different treatment towards Vigano and not for Dominutella? Because I'm talking about me, of course. But we can also mention Don Enrico Bernasconi as well. Could it be that bishops, as bishops, are treated differently? Is it possible? I don't know, but it makes you think. The Archbishop will have to answer to public statements from which it results in the denial of the elements necessary to maintain communion with the Catholic Church, a denial of the legitimacy of Pope Francis. And here Vigano is right. And as you can see, it is always the first point. It is not Jesus Christ. It is not the defense of the Catholic faith that is 2,000 years old. No, it is Pope Francis. Even the Marian apparitions, I spoke about them last week by Pedro Regis. The bishop intervenes to say that this Madonna is not the Madonna because she does not speak well of Pope Francis. No, she speaks badly. She does not speak well of Pope Francis, because Our Lady must speak well of him, of course. These days I'm following what is happening in Medjugorje. We have hyper-Medjugorje faithful of the little remnant who do not understand me when I speak. Worse for them. But here's a smell of sulfur in this whole affair for me. I don't see clearly. I don't see how these things are working. Medjugorje is protected. Why? Not a syllable of Our Lady on fiducia supplicans. But what is the Queen of Peace? The Queen of Peace who does not work, who does not speak of war within the church? That is, there's an abomination, there's desolation. Or does he talk, or does she talk about it and not filter it? Or does Our Lady no longer speak in Medjugorje? It's all a business. As the Neapolitans say, it is a business, of course. But this novena made there in urgency for peace in the world. I see certain comments from Radio Maria to the Nova Bussa Quotidiana that, as it were, encourage this, the novena. It leaves me completely indifferent. That is, the church is on fire. Sorry, it's like a house. It's, to borrow an analogy, he's looking out on the balcony that on his knees he's praying the rosary, and then those down below pass by and shout at him and say, "Look up, your house is on fire. There's a fire in your house." And he says, "Oh no, I'm too busy as I'm praying for peace in the world." It seems to me that this is the way. This is surreal. This is a surreal Madonna. But I wish a war would come. Excuse me. I would like also to say something incidentally, that while they're taking away little Nazareth and everything goes well in the honor of the idol Pope Francis, because this accusation against Vigano also moves first of all from the lack of the legitimacy of the Pope. But it's incredible. It's just that he is the Pharaoh. He is the Pharaoh Bergoglio. There is no doubt about that he's the Pharaoh. I would like to tell you that in the meantime, things are not going well at all in the world. Putin is succeeding in this project of creating an anti-Western, anti-New World axis. And here in Europe, the bureaucrats are surprised that he shakes hands with Xi Jinping, to North Korea or to Vietnam. No, Xi Jinping. The one Xi Jinping is in China. They're amazed that he shakes hands with Kim Jong. But I tell you personally, what I think, that Putin is creating, he's weaving an axis without haste. And here it is no longer the German axis fighting against the Russian one. Here is the entire world involved. You know that at the meeting in Switzerland, at the negotiating table for a common agreement on sanctions against Russia, which was a flop. It was a flop because the important countries are not sitting at the table. And I'm talking about China and Russia, of course, South Africa, India, Colombia, Venezuela, which have bilateral economic relations. But why? Why can Washington do this and Moscow cannot? If Washington does it, it is of course for the common good, for the greater good of the world economy. If Putin does it, then it must be for nefarious reasons. But why? Are those things in the West, important countries such as Brazil, that are missing? That is, in the end, Putin has a broader consensus around him than is imagined globally. What can happen? I do not rule out that the whole thing goes up in flames. The problem is that in the church is in much worse shape. We are tearing each other to pieces, priests against priests, bishops against bishops, cardinals against cardinals, and the Pharaoh who commands. And Our Lady does not say a word. She invites us to the novena. But excuse me, Holy Madonna, do not take it badly. You invite us to a novena for prayer for peace in the world, and didn't you invite us to a prayer of reparation for fiducia supplicans? When Bergoglio was falsely elected, the St. Gallen Mafia placed him there. When Pope Benedict and these unicum obviously are following the appeal of Our Lady. Let us go back to Vigano. What a busy morning. Let us go back to Vigano. Vigano, therefore, is naturally quite visible in the mainstream media. He chimed in with a statement to Aldo Maria Valli, Valli relaunched Monsignor Vigano's statement and expressed solidarity with Monsignor Vigano. This says it all. He expresses solidarity, expressed to Vigano. I swear on my conscience, if that is not enough, I've never asked anyone to write a piece, a message, a post of those who naturally intervene. Look at this Maurizio Catanzaro, who I do not know who he is, writes, Aldo Maria Valli, when will the same solidarity with Don Alessandro Minutella and the other priests of the Marian priesthood sodality be extended? Are they not persecuted by Bergoglio with excommunications and reductions of the lay state for having shouted the truth for years? Listen to the answer of a certain Nicola Piazza. Yes, but Vigano is a different thing. Minutella works for his own aggrandizement. What kind of an answer is that? How can this go on? If you do not delve into the underlying issues, if you do not delve into the issues, how can we take these people seriously? So as they claim, since I work for my own self-aggrandizement, I cannot be defended. But then in what sense do I work for my own image? Don't know. Mysterium fide, mysterium fide. One writes to him, to this one, I have the impression that you have not understood anything about Don Alessandro Minutella. This requires patience. Here's the answer to the same. Monsignor Vigano has more responsibility, and so far, he has been careful not to say openly that Bergoglio is not the Pope. Hypocrite to the highest power, he speaks of Vigano. Before God, he will have no excuses when he asks him, did you defend me before the tribunal of heretics? And this one by Sera Piaceri. But what solidarity? This is from Aldo Maria Valli's blog. Monsignor Vigano sought the easiest way, that is a reconsecrated archbishop, reconsecrated by Monsignor Williams. He played the easy way to be able to save himself and his vestments. But it is the truth that counts, and he has completely rejected it. Other thought-provoking comments. This is interesting. Solidarity with Pope Francis. Oh yeah, solidarity. Poor Pope Francis. Here, solidarity with poor Pope Francis. These are the comments, but I'd like to go now instead to conclude after the solidarity expressed to Monsignor Vigano, to the words that Monsignor Vigano himself released after learning that he was called to trial, to be called to trial to defend himself. I consider the accusations against me as a reason for honor. The very wording of the charges confirms that these that I repeatedly support, these theses that I have supported in my speeches are correct. It is no coincidence that the accusation against me concerns the questioning of the legitimacy of Jorge Mario Bergoglio and the rejection of Vatican II. Here the confusion increases, unfortunately, because if he had stopped only at the first comment, we would have been still together. But he goes further. He rejects the Second Vatican Council, and so he is a schismatic who happens to be condemned by a schismatic. They are at war with each other. I quote Vigano, the Second Vatican Council represents the ideological, theological, moral, and liturgical cancer of which the Bergoglian Synodal Church is a necessary metastasis. And in this sense, he distances himself even more from Benedict XVI and John Paul II, as well as from Paul VI. So this is so that it is clear to all the faithful of the little remnant. This is never questioned, because otherwise you can leave. This is called their hermeneutics of continuity, with the possibility, given the problem of the tampering by Freemasons with the Second Vatican Council. It is no coincidence that in the 1960s Our Lady had asked to reveal the third secret of Fatima. It is possible to correct the problems with it. For example, yesterday in a message, Our Lady Don Stefano Gobbi spoke of true ecumenism. It is interesting because, for example, there is a false ecumenism. This "we love you" understood, we love you at all costs. Catholics who become Orthodox, Orthodox who do not become Catholics, Catholics become Protestants again, Protestants become Orthodox. This is not true ecumenism. It is ecumenism, to put it in a way that attracts sympathy. It is becoming of all Catholics, which is sub petro, that is true ecumenism. But of course, it is not with the whip one goes to the Orthodox Pope saying, you must do this. This is what John Paul II did. Put me in front of me only once when John Paul II did not want true ecumenism. But of course, he spoke of the ecumenism of dialogue, the ecumenism of friendship. That is, it seems to me, a completely reasonable thing in the times we are living in. It is not then that we assume, let us say, Orthodox Christians submit to Peter with the whip. What will be the point? But no, instead, a ecumenism for which Paul VI goes to Athenagoras and embraces it. Is not he embraced it as the traditionalists still remain today, to delegitimize the role of Peter? That Peter did not embrace Paul, perhaps? But you know that there is one of the most beautiful icons of the Orthodox world, I have it in my house, of Peter and Paul together embracing each other. It depicts Peter hugging Paul. This would be unthinkable today for the traditionalists. They claim that an apostate and relativist, Paul VI, went to conduct a ecumenical visit precisely because he is Pope, because he who possesses the truth is stronger. The whole truth is stronger, to embrace Athenagoras and to hold his hand. That gesture was beautiful because it was Paul VI who sought his hand. And Athenagoras, like all Orthodox popes, the Orthodox patriarchs like this, you see Paul VI there. And then let's not talk about John Paul II, who was often rejected by the Orthodox world several times. Yet he continued. But what was the purpose? The purpose was precisely that, to convince that Peter is there and that Peter wants to build a relationship, certainly of authority, but in an evangelical way. That is, of not calling you servants, but friends, as Jesus said. If Jesus says it, shouldn't Peter say it? Look, these are interesting discussions. I feel particularly enlightened by the Spirit, and the more I'm persecuted and hated, the more I think I have been chosen to save Roman Catholicism. I don't know. It may be that I haven't gotten it right up until now. I really hope that I don't get it right. I don't know. Isn't this discourse on ecumenism interesting? Because there are those, then we're going to welcome other young people into the Come and See gathering. They must be clear about our position, otherwise it will not work. Can we have moments of prayer with our Orthodox brothers? Of course we can. Of course you can. Much more with the Orthodox than with the Lutheran churches. But even those, they are still brothers in the faith. They recite the Our Father. Of course, because of Lutherans, they do not recognize the real presence of Jesus in the Mass. There are many things. The Marian devotion, for one. Do we abandon them? Do we try to whip them and attach chains around them, around their necks? No, let's try to open a dialogue. This is what Benedict XVI did. Perhaps they were going a little further with some excessive concessions on a Luther to be revised and so on. Although I can tell you as a theologian that Luther was a wretch, if there ever was one. If you read certain writings of Luther, even on Mary, you will be speechless, because there are beautiful pages as well. Bergoglio would never be able to write like Luther in certain passages. Only that something happened there that we will never be able to understand fully, because Luther really, perhaps at some point, I don't know, could have been possessed. He himself, that in the face of certain things of faith that he did not understand, invoked Satan at night, who had to explain to him certain things. Who knows? Read my book on Neo-Lutheranism. There is the true story of a deranged Luther. In short, let us face it, a Luther with a problematic character who beat his spiritual children mercilessly. And then on Good Friday, he ate pork, drank beer until he got drunk. They threw him at 3 in bed at 3 in the afternoon of Good Friday, reeking of alcohol. Luther was problematic, to say the least. And what do? Do we abandon the Lutherans? No, we need ecumenism, trying to dialogue, to bridge the gap. Then you gradually convince the doubters. If you also read Ut Unum Sint, it is not a contradiction at all. It is an attempt at openness. It is not collegialism. Peter does not renounce being Peter. John Paul II did not give up on being Peter, and said this is false news, because schismatics cannot put on trial a schismatic. Bergoglio is schismatic. Vigano is schismatic. Bergoglio is schismatic because he breaks with tradition. Vigano is schismatic because he breaks with the popes and with the Vatican Council too. And therefore it is false news. It's all false news. That as he went his way, Vigano, I remind you that Vigano went his own way by deciding to be reconsecrated. Why did he have himself reconsecrated? What is the reason? It is a denial of the Wattilian and Ratzingerian Catholic identity, and in the end, who is defending them? Why is everyone targeting Ratzinger and Dominutella? This is the building discrepancy that has caused our center to be taken away from us. Look how sensational. The planes landing at Palermo have to alter course. Dominutella defends the only one who said with Cianci, but I always remember Cianci as a journalist because they tell me, Father, but Cianci is not attacked. Yes, they attack him, but as a journalist. To us as priests, we defend Benedict XVI. Who defended the council in his last speech? I, in my book, Church, Where Are You Going? I quote Benedict XVI's speech. And so, this trial Vigano is non-news because Vigano is outside of the Catholic Church. It is proper that he be recognized as schismatic because he is. It is proper that Vigano is recognized as schismatic because we are not. Dominutella and Domina Nostra are not schismatics. We have never thought for a single moment of leaving the Catholic Church, and we suffer Bergoglio's affront precisely because we have remained Catholic. And there is an attempt, and I conclude because I would have liked to tell you many other things, but here I must read to you, in the meantime, the passage, in my opinion, of one of the most decisive moments of Vigano's letter. He says, I repudiate the neo-modernist errors inherent in Vatican II and in the so-called post-consular magisterium, in particular in matters of collegiality, ecumenism, religious freedom, the secularity of the state, and the liturgy. He is a Lefebvre redivivus, but Lefebvre, compared to him, as much as they do everything to make people believe otherwise, had never denied John Paul II as Pope. And here it is not clear. Does Vigano recognize them as popes or not? Because if he allows himself to be reconsecrated after being consecrated by Pope John Paul II, he is schismatic. We have these things. Do you know how many courtships I've had from priests, from Orthodox bishops? They are. I hope these things are preserved in the archives. I was courted. They would have made me the primate of the Orthodox Monophysite Church in Italy. Right now, it would be the Orthodox pastoral. I would be wearing the Orthodox pastoral, the head covering. But since I do not like the beard, I said no. I said no. I too was courted, you know. When they attack you, you do not know where to lean because no one supports you. This is where you, especially seminarians, must see the truth. This going forward without leaning on anything but Jesus and Mary, because there's no bishop to meet us. There's no cardinal who says, my poor children, you're letting yourselves be torn to pieces to defend the authenticity of Roman Catholicism. Nothing at all, understood? Here, therefore, it is a non-news that leaves us completely indifferent. And I find no reason why Aldo Maria Valli decides not to answer. Why do you not express the solidarity to Dominutella, to Don Bernasconi? There is no answer. The answer is given by a detractor who opines that Dominutella is trying to pump up his public image. But what does this mean to work towards building one's own image? I can't understand this. Please explain it to me. Thank you. And so we go on. This evening, there is the prayer of the Pioneers of the Rosary at 9 p.m., as you know. Now, while I'm closing with you, the work of dismantling and moving out of piccolonazareth continues. We are moving to an adjacent property. Meanwhile, next door, there are homes that were built with no building permits. That is, it is not that there is a building anomaly. There are no building permits at all for these homes. And they put their music at full volume. It is a person from the city of Trapani. He built a villa almost overnight. And the owner of the next door villa told him, I'm going to accuse you to the authorities. You're building the villa, but you don't have a building permit. The building permits. His answer? Oh, no, but I have the right protection in the municipality. I would not want to, would I? You know, mutatis mutandi. And we are in mutandis right now. If you can understand what I'm saying, reading between the lines. But why? Couldn't it be solved? Couldn't the building anomalies be solved? Well, because there are wooden structures, but the wooden structures are made of wood on purpose to take them away. But the base is made of concrete. Well, we'll just take it away. Or it can be discussed. This could have been discussed, especially if they then put the music around at full volume because they're kicking us out in the butt, saying, finally, you're leaving. You understand how it is going? Be careful, however, because if this is Good Friday, it's a matter of time before Easter arrives. And it will be trouble for all our enemies. Well, my dear ones, remember to help us because we need it so much now more than ever. It all depends on you. They want for our operation to collapse. I announce something that I feel inside. When the enemies, I beg the director, well, go back to me because I want to look at you. When the enemies come to understand that they have not stopped us and that indeed the work next door will become even more beautiful, I foresee the next move. They will start an investigation on our finances. That is, they will slander us on the aspect of our finances, that I take money for myself, etc. Because on the question of women, they've never succeeded, and I can't talk too much, but I've been criminally dissected with how much hair I have in my head to see if I really did not sexually abuse my daughters. Look, a pig wouldn't think of such stuff. I've been investigated by people, I don't know who, out of hatred for these things that I finished saying in anger. And they've been archived, been put away because of how it's unreasonable. Practically, the judicial authorities said, but this process is unreasonable. There's nothing here. We cannot build an accusation based on unproven accusations. That is, they realized that this whole thing was rubbish. But here you have for the first time known where Domina Nostra came from a few years ago. Then I asked my Lord to pass me the dossier. And I read the disgusting things that they wrote. I would not have, because I've never seen pornographic films. I've never seen them. Thanks to Our Lady, I don't know what the so-called red light dimension is. I've never seen a magazine. I've never watched a pornographic film. I was shocked by what I read of people who went there to try to hurt me, accusing that I did this and did that with women. Apart from the fact that these accusers were idiots and cretins, because at the very least, if I did it with minors, they could accuse me of abusing minors. But they are really stupid because, if anything, they are of age. If there's a consensus, unless I raped them, you understand me? Do you realize what levels they're at? Either I raped them or there is consent. If there is consent, where is the crime? Understood? But what do? Do you want to come with me to spend? Well, where are there phone calls? I don't know what levels they have reached with Domina Nostra. And the real enemy is not Vigano. The real enemy is Minutella, of course. Remember that, because as long as Minutella is there, the Catholic spirit is safeguarded. Thanks above all to the precious work of the confreres. And I would always like to remember, in a very special way, Don Enrico Bernasconi and also Don Ramon, who was also preparing for the worst. Without the possibility of trial, of course, it is still a trial to be rejected to avoid schismatics that condemn other schismatics. Let's go to the first phone call. Hello? Hello, Domina Nostra. Praise be to Jesus Christ. May he always be praised. I'm Ida from Ascoli Piceno, and I wanted to tell you a reflection that since I often see the lives, the films and the lives of the saints because I like them. I often see the life of Padre Pio as well. At a certain point, when there's the episode of Padre Gemelli, who was commissioned by the Pope to investigate the stigmata of Padre Pio was quick because he was able to read people's minds. He was not so naive and refused to speak with him. He didn't even agree to talk to him and said to him, "Leave me alone because you've already judged me, condemned me anyway." Father Gemelli, in response, makes a report saying that Padre Pio we know the story, Ida. We know the story because I've even authored a book on this. There's an inaccuracy in what you're saying. Be careful, there's an accuracy. You must not... yes, that is a reflection. Films about saints. How, Father? Films about saints are incredibly beautiful, but often... Yes, but they're often unforgivable inaccuracies. For example, listen, Ida, it was not at all the Pope who sent Padre Gemelli to view the stigmata of Padre Pio. Otherwise, Padre Pio... Oh no, read my book, Padre Pio, Man of God, that I wrote, because otherwise Padre Pio would have shown them to him. Padre Gemelli, on his own initiative, asked Padre Pio to show him the stigmata. That's why Padre Pio did not show them to him, because he just told them, "Show me the permission of the Holy See." And he said he did not have it, and Padre Pio said, "Well, I will not show it to you then." There you have it, the cover of the book. No, but it made me think about this thing that reminds me of the situation, of his life, which is tormented like that of Padre Pio. Oh yes, practically it is not that. Sometimes, maybe even more. After this, after the report that he reads, the psychopath, a self-harmer, tells him all sorts of things. After a while, he reflects, Padre Pio, and says, "I hope this is true too." Let us see. He says, "This is nothing but Satan. He is the devil who confuses the minds of the wise." Yes, Padre Pio. And this makes me think a lot. Of course, Ida, of course. In the meantime, I bless you with all my heart. Thank you for your intervention, but it is likely that Padre Pio used these or similar words precisely to make his neighbors and spiritual daughters understand that the devil would persecute him all his life, as it turned out, even when he is dead. But Ida, please read my book, Padre Pio, Man of God. You find all the truths that a film does not tell. Read the book more than watch the film. Even if the film is beautiful, it is well done, but there are inaccuracies. For example, I repeat, it was not the Pope who sent Father Agostino Gemelli, but Armida Barelli, who was a holy woman. She asked Padre Gemelli to accompany her to Padre Pio, and he invented the story that it was the Pope who wanted to see him, to show him the stigmata. Padre Pio, as he said, who could read hearts, knew that it was not true, and therefore had no reason to show him the stigmata. That angered Father Gemelli, and he made Padre Pio pay for this. In the end, as I mentioned in my book, I say that Father Gemelli, unexpectedly for me, this is the one thing I don't forgive Father Gabriele Amort, who says that Father Gemelli in the end repented a little. He was made up of such character, impulsive, etc. In short, this revisionism of Father Amort did not convince me that much. In my opinion, Father Gemelli would have had a lot of time to change his mind because, this is what he did in 1920 to attack Padre Pio, to attack his proposals, such as that of restraining him and so on. Sorry, Father. And then Father Gemelli died, I think in the 1960s or 70s, I don't remember, more or less. Didn't he see in the meantime that the tree was producing fruit? It is like what it is what happens with Dominutella, Dominutella's enemies. Sorry, didn't Padre Gemelli see that Padre Pio was there in his place to suffer in silence with love to save souls? Sorry, he had ample time to change his mind. Why didn't he do it? Because he was proud. Because he was proud. He was full of himself. And so are the enemies of Dominutella. Sorry, for 8 years Dominutella has willingly let himself be torn to pieces left and right. He remains standing. The things he had announced are coming true. I said, look at Bergoglio. This will come, this and this and that. And so everyone there, the Papa Boys of Aletheia, who then disappeared on social media, this is already a sign, and so on. Sorry then, one who attacks me, a social network who attacks me, a priest, a reality that attacks me, or that has attacked me, or has kept silent, should be able to resist. It means that God is with him. Well, this Dominutella, the more they hit him, the more he goes on. It cannot be just a human thing. There's certainly God's finger here, the sign of the presence of the, especially since he made prophecies that were. Domina had said in 2018, you will see that what will happen in 2023. Benedict XVI died on December 31st, 2022. The year 2023 was the unleashing of evil, because the katekon had died. But I said it all. So if on the other side there were people who humbly recognized that Domina was right, at least they would provide, as asked Aldo Maria Valli, for a conference. No, nothing. There's intellectual pride, and Our Lady cannot act. God cannot act with those who are proud. They realize that Domina perseveres in the faith, perseveres in the truth. He tells the truth. The entire world is against him. But there are the nuns, there are seminarians, those that are lay faithful, and the work goes on. Well, my dear ones, that's concluded here for today. I give you the blessing. As far as I'm concerned, I remind you that today is Friday in the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Let us adore and honor the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Let us offer worthy reparation to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. I would say today, in a very special world, in reparation for the sins of blasphemy that so offends the Sacred Heart. And then I'm waiting for you, as far as I'm concerned, this evening at 9 p.m. for prayer with the Pioneers of the Rosary. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. May Christ be praised, and forward with Mary.